Hello, so wonderful to see you again. It's Judy from Coffee, Cookies, and Books, and what we're going to do today is book recommendation tag. So I was doing my usual scroll through my favorite booktubers, and one of them came up, and she had a video called Book Recommendation Tag. And it was Maria from Books and Mo, and I do watch her regularly. I believe she's in Ireland, which I found I like the uniqueness of some of the books that she comes up with all the time. She is primarily a fantasy reader, but I do love her channel in general. So when she came up with this tag of questions, now she got it from somebody else. There are 20 questions in total. I am not sure who she got the questions from, but I wanted to tag her. And then if you want to, you can go back and watch her video, which is fantastic because her recommendations are going to be completely different from mine. And then you can go back from there and watch who she got the tag questions from. So there are 20. I don't know if I mentioned that. And I have not actually looked at these questions ahead of time. And the reason that I didn't look at them ahead of time is because I wanted to be very off the cuff with you. I wanted this kind of be a situation where I'm going to look at the question and just whatever pops into my head is what is going to come up. Now, a lot, I think, of what I'm going to recommend is mostly going to be some of the fresher reads that I have in my head, because that's just, I think, the nature of how I feel. But I think that that is perhaps important because it keeps some of the newer things. But then there are some questions in here that do relate to what, like, I think, what would be your favorite book of all time, like that kind of thing. So then we're definitely talking about things that I've read in the past. Okay, so let's get started. We'll go through, start with the first question and just hammer on through from there. So a book you tell people is your favorite. So if people ask me what is my favorite book, typically I will say now it is not so much a book, but the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Okay. And that is because I don't think I've ever read anything like it, ever. And it is the uniqueness of that, and how much I enjoy it. So when people ask what's your favorite, I can't even think of anything else. I mean, I do have other favorites, obviously, but that is like the key one, jumps in my head first thing. So it would be that one. Now, out of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and so far I've read the first 4 books. There are 8. I think there's going to be 10 in total. So I've read the first 4. I feel that for me, the one I liked the best was probably the last one I read. Although I really loved the third one, and a lot of people didn't. That's a Dungeon Anarchist cookbook because they found it confusing, but I loved the chaos, absolute chaos in it. So that, and I loved what happened in it with all of the crawlers, like with the relationships in that book, what happened there. And then it carried into the 4th book. So those are the 2 that were like, yeah, it's just, the series has gotten stronger as the books have gone on for me. So, but it's still a 5-star series. Anyway, that's enough of that. A book that is your guilty pleasure. So again, guilty pleasure to me would be the cozy mystery type books. Then, one that comes to mind, which was one of the most recent ones I read, was My Vampire Plus One, which is a rom-com. So it's like a romantic comedy, and it was just hilarious. Love that. The other one that comes to mind is the last one I read, the Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun. That's the part of the Finley Donovan series. Finley Donovan is Killing It was the first one, but the Jumps the Gun was my favorite so far in the series. I've read three, and it's the third. It was the third one. It was just so good. So that's kind of my guilty pleasure. It's like I love books that just don't take themselves too seriously, and I think that when you're talking about, I think comedy kind of gets it for me. That's kind of it for me. Some people don't like to read comedy. I love comedy in the written form. So, yeah. Whereas I don't like to watch stand-up comics, but I love comedy in the written form. So, yeah. Third question. A book everyone loved, but you didn't. I can't think of one off the top of my head. A book. Oh, yes. Okay. I DNF'd it. And that is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Didn't like it at all. Now, I don't know if it was specifically his writing or just the book itself. Okay. 1,000-page book. I gave it a good try. I got to 250 pages and I couldn't do it. So, and I know that is very much a beloved book. It's the Cosmere series is a beloved series, and I just couldn't do it. And it's like, somebody said to me, well, maybe you just don't like epic fantasy. No, because I've read many other epic fantasy books and quite enjoyed them. I just did not particularly like this one, but I am willing to give Brandon Sanderson another go because I've heard that his other series are very different. So it might not be his writing, it might just be the series, like the story itself. Anyway, yeah, that one just came to mind because that was recent. So that was a different recent one. Okay, a book you read the fastest. I'm not even sure what that means. It's like, I think I probably read through, well, I was going to say I read through romances faster than, I definitely read through romances and thrillers, horrors, mysteries, faster than I do like my sci-fi or like my Dungeon Crawler Carl, like those types of books, because those are the books where you don't want to miss anything. Like if you miss even the tiniest thing, it can really affect the story. So although I would say romances are the ones where you can read them faster. They just flow through faster. And I think because they're not complicated. For the most part, they are fairly simple, right? So I think maybe that's why. Yeah. A book that deserves more hype. I don't know if it is so much, again, a specific book, but authors that deserve more hype. So I find sometimes a lot of authors get lost in the shuffle, but they're amazing authors. Like they have their followings, but when you look at their Goodreads ratings, the Goodreads ratings are so low, and I wonder sometimes how it is they only have that many people reading their books. So one of them would be an author by the name of Anna Hackett. Now, she writes romance stories, but a lot of her stuff will have a sci-fi element. It'll have monsters and all kinds of things. And I love her series. Like every series she does is unique and different. And yeah, I love her characters and I love the romances in them. Now, do I like every single book? No, some of them are boring. When you read too many of romance, that's why I read so much variety, because I don't get sick of what I read. okay? Which is one of the reasons why I don't like to read everything in a row, okay? Like, I don't want to read a whole series back to back. I just don't want to do that because that I don't feel that I appreciate the series as much when I do that. So, like, she's an author that I can think of that is perhaps underrated. And there are indie authors, a lot of indie authors that don't get the appreciation that I feel they deserve. And so I really couldn't encourage you more to explore indie authors as much as possible. A lot of them will have their books on Kindle Unlimited. If you have Kindle Unlimited, get Kindle Unlimited. Like, I just had a book that I pulled for my June TBR that is like a sci-fi kind of AI type book, and it's written by a indie author, and I will read it. So it will not be one that I will put off to the wayside, because usually when I pull my TBR, I always pull more books than what I need, and then I kind of decide what I'm going to read from that batch. But that one's going to get read because it's by an indie author, and to me, I want to support them. So that's why I do that. Anyways, that's my take on that. A book that is becoming a movie TV show. Well, I think there's like more than enough of those, but I'm going to be frank with you. I rarely watch TV or movies. I prefer the books. So I guess the most recent one would be Hail Mary by, what's his name? I can't even think the author's name. Haven't read the book. But I do want to read it because it is sci-fi and I do like sci-fi. But I haven't read any of his books. Like, I didn't read The Martian because that sounded boring to me. But Hail Mary, Project Hail Mary, sounds like something that I would really love. So I do want to read that book and will be reading it. But I have no interest in seeing the movie. And I don't like Ryan Gosling. So, yeah. No. Anyway, although he does seem kind of perfect for that role, based on everything that I've read about the role of the scientist who goes up. Anyway, yeah. So I don't really pay a lot of attention to what ends up on TV. Now, the one thing that I know that is a TV series is the Expanse series by James S. Corey, which is like a space opera series. And I was like, if there was anything I was going to watch, I would watch that. Okay. A book that you reread the most. The book that I have reread the most, which may very well come up again, is The Stand by Stephen King. I've read that book minimum 3 times, might be more. I love that book. And every time you read it, and I don't know if it's because you know the characters and you kind of know the situation, but time passes between each read. And each time I read it, I feel like I read something different or additional in it. And I'm getting to a point where it's almost time to read it again because I haven't read it in a very long time now. I read it when it first came out. And then I read it again 2 more times after. But it's been quite some time since the last time I read it. So I think I need to reread it again. To me, that's like, yeah. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say on that one. That's for sure the only book that I have, the book that I've reread the most. A book from a genre you don't typically read. Well, I would say nonfiction is a genre I don't typically read, but nothing in particular that I've read in that genre stands out because to me, I don't really rate my nonfiction books. It's just, I read them just more for, either information or just pure general interest, you know. But that is the genre I don't typically read. So it's like, yeah, like I read Britney Spears' book, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't a 5-star read, but I did really enjoy that one. So now the one that I have that's come up on my TBR before, and I really want to read it, and I didn't read it, and I really want to. It's called Ask Not, and it is about the women behind the Kennedy men. And I've wanted to read that one for some time. I've had it for a while. I love the author, Maureen Callahan. So I really want to read that one. So hopefully I'll get a chance to read it this year. A book that deserves all the hype that it gets, Dungeon Crawler Carl. In my opinion, deserves all the hype that it gets. It's just like, yeah. If I was going to say something other than that, it would probably be the Hunger Games series. Now, I'm talking about the first 3 books only at this point. And that is because it's like that was sort of a groundbreaking YA fantasy series, but it just, everything in it was so beautifully written, okay, and hard and tough to read. They're like, Susan Collins did not let up at all. She didn't take her foot off the pedal anywhere in that series. So that, to me, really deserved the hype that it was given. And I have reread. I did that at Christmas, actually. I reread the first 3 books, and I read for the first time the other 2 books, and just all 5 books. Fantastic. So I do really feel that it deserves all of the hype it gets. Okay. 10th question. A book you usually recommend when asked to give a recommendation. I guess that depends. Am I giving a recommendation on a genre of books, or am I just giving you a general recommendation, right? Because, you know, I've said it, I like the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, but that's not for everybody. And I like the Hunger Games series, but that's not for everybody. And I love The Stand, and that's not for everybody. And I loved what I read of the Dark Tower series, and that's definitely not for everybody. So I think that when you talk about recommendations, I always typically ask, do you want a romance recommendation? Do you want a fantasy recommendation? Fantasy, I probably don't have as many because I don't read as many fantasies as most people do. Do you want a thriller recommendation? Like, you know, one of the books that stands out to me as a dark thriller that I read years ago was Watchers by Dean Koontz. And I've never forgotten that book. Like, never. I have a copy of it here. And actually might reread that at some point. So, and I do really love his books. And then if you want a recommendation for something that the entire series is really good, that I enjoyed, is the Kathy Reichs Temperance Brennan series. Totally love that. So it really depends on, because I'm an all-round kind of reader that reads a little bit of everything. When somebody asks me for recommendation, you know, like even like romance books, I don't read contemporary romance. So if somebody asked me for a contemporary romance recommendation, I would have no idea what to give them. But if they ask me about just general romance, well, I can say my favorite is romantic suspense, and here are the romantic suspense authors that I love the most. So that's how that kind of goes for me. I know I'm not talking about book recommendations, but I kind of am. But sometimes it's a more general response as opposed to a specific response, right? So that's the first 10 questions. So we're going to take a bit of a break, and then we're going to move on to the final 10 questions. Yeah, so had to take a bathroom break. Now I'm going to take a coffee break. Okay. Yes, good. All right, let's move on to number 11. A book that has your favorite characters. Again, a book that has your favorite, well, Dungeon Crawler Carl, okay? And that's not just because I like Carl. I like Carl. I like Princess Donut. I like Katya. I like all of the characters that are the main or secondary characters. I love all of them. It's just, Matt Dinniman builds his characters beautifully in this series. So by the time you get to the fourth book, you're invested 100% in these people and the cat. Oh God, I love Princess Donut. She's a talking cat, okay? And she has her own distinct personality. There's no doubt about it. She's a prize cat with an attitude and love. So, when you talk about your favorite characters, I love that. Another favorite character is in the Expanse series, one of the main characters. Now, there are several. There's actually quite a lot of characters, a lot of moving pieces, but one of the main guys is Jim Holden. And he's been kind of forced into this position as the captain of this ship. That's not what he was before, okay? So it's kind of he's been thrown into this, and he is literally flying by the seat of his pants, okay? And initially, what happens in the first book happens because he's angry. He's upset, and he essentially does something that creates a situation that then runs from there through the book, okay? But he does not change who he is, and that kind of comes up through the book as well. And so those are kind of that's kind of a key character. So when I have a book that has a character like that, and it's a character that carries you through, okay, like that, they're very strong in who they are, but they also develop and change because they have to, right? And yeah, I love that kind of development. So, a book you wish you could live in. A book I wish I could live in. I don't know that I can answer that question. Not really. No, I've never ever thought of that, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it's interesting because that theme has come up a couple of times in a few books, like Long Live Evil, where she basically falls into the story that she's been reading. And then there's the new one that just came out. I forget what it's called, but I do have it over here. Where is it? Oh, this kingdom will not kill me. So that is, again, that same theme where the subject falls into the story that they're reading and that they're comfortable with. And I've never wanted to do that. I guess I kind of like where I live. So, yeah. I mean, I think that's one of those questions where you think about it when you're reading the book, maybe. Oh, I would love to live there. That probably happens to me maybe a little bit when I read some of my romance stories. okay? Oh, that sounds really like a lovely place. Like I would love to go there, visit there, might want to live there, that kind of thing. But then once the book's done, that thought's gone. Yeah, so that's kind of how I am with it. Number 13, a book you thought you would hate but ended up loving. A book I thought I would hate but ended up loving. Oh, okay. So, Once Upon a Broken Heart. Hated the first book. And then the second book, which is, hold on, because I can't remember that one. Once Upon a Broken Heart series. That's it there. What's the second one? Isn't that awful? Can't remember. Second one, The Ballad of Never After. 5-star book. And the thing is, when I finished the first book, Once Upon a Broken Heart, I was going to, because I had bought the 3 from Book Outlet as a together, and I was just going to unhaul it. Okay, because I really seriously disliked the first book. 2 stars, I think, was what I gave it maximum. And somebody said, don't do it. Second book is better. And I was like, how much better is it going to get? I'm like, a 3-star read, whatever. I was like, okay, so I dragged on it. And I ended up reading the second book at the end of last year. And oh my God, it was a 5-star read for me. So I did not expect that. I mean, I really actually expected to hate it like the first book, but I can honestly say, now, I will say that I just did the video kind of updating my series challenge, and the final book, which is A Curse for True Love, I think it's the final one. A Curse for True Love, yeah, is the final one. So that one is going to come up. It has been pulled for my June TBR, okay? And because it is a series continuation, they usually absolutely get read. But if I'm being honest, I could have been happy, kind of, where the second book ended. It did end on a cliffhanger, given, okay? But I loved everything through the whole book, and I even loved the way it ended, which I know is weird because it ended on a cliffhanger, but I did. And so now it's like, I don't want to ruin it. I'm afraid of ruining my truly enjoyable experience with the second book because I hated the first one so much. But if you've read the A Curse for True Love, the third book, let me know what you thought in comparison to the second book. Okay, I would love to hear, because that was kind of how I made. Yeah. A book that made you cry. I'm not much of a crier, okay, but I did get emotional when I read Beartown. And I think it's one of those books that you just can't help but not be emotional when you read it because of what happens and how it affects so many people. It was just, yeah, it was an emotional read. Now, I have not read any of Kristen Hanna's books. I do have a few here. I haven't read any of those. I've heard they're very emotional, an emotional read. I don't typically get emotional. I mean, like I get a little bit of that, but usually it's like a little bit of a scene will make me a little bit emotional. But then once it's done, I'm done, and then I move on from there. Like one example. Well, I can't give it as an example because it would be okay, I can mention it. So a book that you would not think would make you emotional is Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinniman. So there's a standalone that he recently wrote, and I recently read it. And I absolutely loved it. But there is a scene in the book that made me, even now, thinking about it, it made me very emotional because of the situation that these young people were put in and the difference between the age groups in the book. I can't say any more than that because if you want to read the Operation Bounce House, that would totally give it away. But there was a scene in there that made me tear up. But the whole book didn't make me cry, okay? Because it's just not that kind of book, right? And I think that's the case for most books, all right? You read them and there might be an emotional scene, but then you move on from there. And that's kind of how I am with it. But I would say that Beartown is an emotional book, period. So if I think of it that way, that would be my example on that. The book you wish you could read again for the first time, Harry Potter. It's like I wish that I could go back and read it fresh. I mean, you know, I've reread it. And I'm talking about the first book. I'm not talking about the whole series. I'm just talking about the first book. That first book is special. And it's just one of those ones that you kind of wish you could start from the beginning and reread it. I mean, to me, a kid reading that book for the first time, spectacular. Such a good book. Yeah. So that would be one in my mind like that. A book that could cure a reading slump. For me, I don't really get into slumps. And I think I don't get into slumps for a couple of reasons. One is because I don't read a lot of the same thing back to back all the time. The other one is because I typically will pop in a romantic comedy or a cozy mystery, or I consider those sort of palate cleansers. You know, even sometimes some of the romances I read, and that's how I avoid a reading slump. I don't know about curing it, but I avoid them that way. And I think the other way, the main way I avoid them is not reading the same thing. Like even I did a Karen Slaughter vlog, which went up just this month. And by the end of that, I was like, I had enough of Karen Slaughter there for a while. Now, I do have a book of hers on next month, which is fine, you know. But by then, I'll have read all these other ones in between. So it's like I don't like to read, but I did not read from the same series of Karen Slaughter. So there were three books that were 20 years gap between as you went, right? So I think that made a difference too. Anyway, yeah, so that's my whole slumpy thing. That's my theory on avoiding slumps. I don't know about curing them, but definitely avoiding them. A book you think everyone needs to read. Don't know that I have any, again, I don't have any specific recommendations, but I think that if you are a reader or you're a non-reader, so if you're a non-reader, I would say you could start with the Hunger Games series, first book. You could start with the Harry Potter series, first book. You could start with a romance if you like the idea of romance. Try to stick to something that has no sexual content. So maybe an Emily Henry book, because I don't think her books have heavy sexual content in them. Or look for not a thriller, but maybe a cozy mystery. Cozy mysteries will definitely start you off very slow into reading, and some of them are just so much fun. Like the Finley Donovan series. I don't think there's anybody that could read that first book and come out of it and think that they were triggered by anything in it, because it's fun. And Finley Donovan is a mess, and it's complete chaos in her life, and it's a lot of fun. So anyway, that would be my theory on all of that. A book you think would make an amazing movie. I think any book would make an amazing movie, but for sure, the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Although I don't know how I think it got picked up. Now, I don't know. I think that not so much a movie, but a TV series, like, although that would be expensive to make, I would think, because that's a rough one. Although there's a lot of opportunity to use our world in it and make it really gritty but fun. Yeah, that could be cool. Okay, but it could also be bad if they didn't do it right. Just gonna say that. So that's what I think. Like, I think it could be amazing, but it also could be really suck. So just my opinion on that one. Okay. Number 19. So we're almost done. 2 more questions. A book you wish everyone could give a shot, even if it's out of their comfort zone. A book that I think you could give it a shot, even if it's out of their comfort zone. Geez, I don't want to say Dungeon Crawler Carl again, because I'm starting to sound like a freaking broken record, right? But I think that when it comes to that series, that the majority of the people who love it would not, like, I am the perfect example of somebody who should not like that series, because I don't game. I don't understand. Like, when I initially went into it, I had no clue what all of the gaming references and everything like that were in it. And I honestly didn't know for sure if I was going to like it. So I think that it's one of those series that just everyone enjoys. People who read, I've seen people who read just general fantasy, like epic fantasy, love this series. Women who read romance and romantasy love this series. So it is one of these series that people of all ages, of all reading tastes, tend to like it. Now, not everyone does, but if you're going to give any book a shot, it would be Dungeon Crawler Carl, first book. Give it a shot. Yeah, for sure. Now, everybody has said that the second book in the series is kind of their least favorite, and it is my least favorite, but I still really enjoyed it. But I think that was, and then the third book in the series confuses a lot of people. It's all based in the subways. It's like subway systems, train systems, everything. And it could get confusing, but I kind of mapped it out in my head, and it was so much fun. It's just so much fun. Okay, just my opinion on that one. And then it just goes from there. So anyway, that's that one. And then the last one is a book you'll never forget, and that is The Stand by Stephen King. Because clearly, I mentioned that when I talk about the book that I reread the most, and it is one that in my head scared the crap out of me, okay? Because it was so real. It was just so real. Now, it has a fantastical element to it, definitely, in it. But it's creepy, and it has a horror edge to it. And it is a thriller, and it is sad, and it is just hard and brutal. It has all those things in it. And not just has never left me. Everything that was in it has never left my head. Okay. And I know that they have tried to do screen adaptations of it, and they haven't done a good job. And that I guess that's another one that that goes back to that book that you'd like to see in a movie. I would like to see a movie. They've done TV series adapt, and I did not like it. it should be a movie, okay? Because I think it would be, yeah, if it was done right, it would be so amazing. Anyway, that's it. I don't know how well I did on all those questions. Okay, but I'm going to leave those questions below for anybody who might be interested in doing this tag themselves, because I think it's kind of an interesting way to just generally talk about books and how you feel about them, and maybe not recommending a specific book. Like, I didn't recommend a lot of specific books. I talked more in general, which I think is probably as a result of the fact that that's more how I read, is more, I'm a more of a general reader as a rather than a specific targeted reader. But I know what I like and what I don't like. Like Way of Kings, didn't like it, you know. So I am pretty good about that sort of thing. But anyway, so that's my answer to my 20 questions. Love to hear what you think. Feel free to ask me any questions on any of my answers. And, you know, I'm always honest with you guys. So be honest with me and what you think, because, you know, I love that. And I love chit chat back and forth. Okay, so that's it for this video. I think the next video that's going up after this one is going to be the June TBR video. And I've already pulled the books, and there's some really great ones in there. So can't wait for you to have a look at that. And yeah, that's it for this video, and we'll see you in the next one.